This is Super Saiyan Squeamish here with another Sonic Lost World stage review. We're gonna keep it quick this time due to the fact that, you know what, that's my business. Anyways, this is the snow area. I don't feel like going back to check, even though I was just playing the stage, but I didn't finish it, and you'll hear why. Now, that being said, right before we get onto the stage, this is the fourth zone, well, technically referred to in the game as areas, and this first zone in the fourth area. That being said, let's get right into it. Okay, so this stage opens off, as you've seen, with the snowboard. Classic from the Wii games like Sonic and Mario Olympics, and a handful of other Sonic stages throughout the Sonic universe, as well as just comic media, where we notice, well, Sonic just can do anything. Anyways, in this game, the snowboard operates fairly simple. It's quite a lot of fun to use. You can't do as many backflips or fancy tricks as you think you could, but I do have to say that it is a really fun mechanic, and it makes you kind of wish that there was a stage dedicated just to the snowboard. Now, putting that out there, I think Snow and Sonic go hand in hand really well, especially when it comes to stage designs with slippery platforms and his whole mechanic being speed. Now, that being said, the stage isn't just a snowboard, sadly. It transitions very quickly into a very, very ergonomically and beautifully, uniquely, I could go on design stage with all kinds of elements like steampunk vibes and different types of just random spatial kind of concepts. It makes the stage really fun, and out of some of the other ones we've seen in this game, it doesn't really feel like it's just thrown together. Cough, cough. Desert Ruins Stage 3. Still really don't like that stage. Now, that being said, it's not just one of those stages where you're like, wow, I can go fast and enjoy this. There is actually some interesting gimmicks. And for once, I can use the word interesting quite heavily. You get to push some snowballs through various challenges, moving gears, moving platforms, different paths, and some wipeout style action with ice and other stuff blowing through, giving you the options to fall off the edge and enjoy the awesome background and wonder how that was even made. Is that a fan in there? Now, with that being pointed out, this stage can get a little gruesome in terms of time. It's kind of consuming. It allows you to go Sonic-y, but you have to pay attention or you just don't make it through as fast as you would, obviously. Now, that being said, there is a hidden gem in this stage, or, well, it depends on the type of connoisseur you are, because there is an enemy that is quite frustrating, and if you don't understand how to properly deal with the encounters, you can see in my video, I was sitting there for about 10-15 minutes, and it even took like 2 to 3 recordings just to get that properly taken care of. But it was overall kind of fun, and it was like a mini boss experience, which is always nice when you're a boss fight chaser like myself. Now, to wrap up how I feel about this stage, the last thing I want to mention was I think the snowball mechanic, which is very similar to the apple mechanic, is actually a lot of fun. Later stages make it a bit more frustrating with certain enemies and things like the penguins you've seen here, which may or may not have their own stage or spotlight in this video. Now, before we move on to talk about the key elements outside of the stage itself and the area and all of that, things like the enemies and the mechanics, I just have to say that overall, this stage is quite decent. It's not the most, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not worthless in terms of the Sonic universe. Now, there isn't very many enemies outside of the worm you'll see here, and the penguins, which this is our first encounter with, who you normally cannot land a single hit on. Though, the lock-on mechanic, the wind kick, or landing the hit as they are moving seems to do the trick. It's not always the most accurate, but you can nail it. Now, that being said, I think that wraps up the Sonic video, and I can't forget it. How I feel about this stage overall and the rating I would give it, I think it's a perfect Sonic stage. It hits all of those elements with a little bit of puzzle, a little bit of challenge. Of course, you have to love the 3D ergonomics and all of the, I guess, vertically challenging designs. It's Quite an array of concepts going on in the background there. Very neat. 10 out of 10 in terms of design and enjoyment. It's a solid 7. I still get a little frustrated at it. In like a fun aspect, not in a actually frustrating way, especially when you're not like on the clock, of course. Well, that being said, overall, like I said, it's a 10 and a 7 in terms of enjoyment. I think most Sonic fans would find this stage to hit all those boxes and enjoy it. But overall, that's that. Now, if you're a Sonic fan, feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment about Sonic, the stage. Did you notice something I could have done to go faster? Did you see anything you want, really, at this point? Now, if you're not a Sonic fan, same thing. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share if you must, or if you like my voice, which is weird. Not really. Anyways, Super Saiyan Squeamish out.
Take it easy.